Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so.
The next work of the flesh in Galatians is uncleanness, which lures people away into becoming impure by going after the lusts of their own hearts, ignoring Yahuwah's clear word, thinking that they know best, forgetting that the heart pumps blood racing around the body, and often to do impulsive, self-righteous things that are wicked. It's like, for example, when King Saul was instructed by Yahuwah to destroy the Amalekites and everything belonging to them. But Saul and the people decided to keep their king alive. And what's more, not only their king, but also the best of their sheep, oxen, fatlings, lambs, and all of what people in Saul's camp thought was good, so that they could sacrifice it to Yahuwah, who sees all, and saw that everything about the Amalekites was wicked, and so wanted Yasharal to have no association with them or their belongings whatsoever. But Saul thought he knew best, thinking it would be good to sacrifice something up to Yahuwah that Yahuwah has deemed unrighteous. And on top of that, Saul also feared people in his camp even more than he feared Yahuwah, which is also worth noting. How many of us in our works for Yahuwah seek to please people and care what they think over obeying Yahuwah? Like, for example, individuals in churches afraid to speak out against lawlessness for fear of being shunned. Or others in camps afraid to confront elders on the requirement of being reborn of the Ruach and of a literal water baptism, as the Messiah and his apostles were, and continue to do so to others in their ministry. Anyway, Saul became unclean, unfit. Yahuwah's messenger, Shemuel, said, "To obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yahuwah, he has also rejected you from being king." Saul didn't listen. He was unclean, and so he was rejected. In the book of Romans, Shaul wrote of vain, unthankful, and foolish-hearted people, and said that Yah also gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts. These people wanted to do their own thing, to serve the lusts of their own hearts, and so by default the people became unclean, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of Yah, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful. And in this situation, Yahuwah will take a step back and leave you to it, to yield your members servants to uncleanness and to iniquity unto iniquity. Yahuwah will give them up to uncleanness. Like with Saul, Yahuwah didn't stop him taking wicked belongings of the Amalekites. He allowed him to use his members to serve unrighteousness, uncleanness, which Kepha, otherwise known as Peter, also defines as being presumptuous and self-willed. An unclean person does their own thing, and they will use their members for disobedience and rebellion, which is on par with witchcraft, and for stubbornness, which is on par with lawlessness and idolatry. In this case, idolatry of oneself, having high regard or trust for oneself. Shaul said, "I shall bewail many which have sinned already, and have not repented of the uncleanness and fornication and lasciviousness which they have committed." Which brings us on to the next work of the flesh, lasciviousness, which is living in pleasure with no restraint, which can lead to things like smoking, doing drugs, or other addictions like masturbation or pornography, which is filthiness, lewdness, which perverts and corrupts the mind and causes you to lust after immorality. Remember, Yahushua said, "I say unto you, that whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart." And so what do you think pornography or masturbation will do to the chances of someone looking at women or men with lust in their heart? The word says, "Unto the pure are all things pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. but even their mind and conscience is defiled. The word says that it is wicked men or women that turn the grace of Yahuwah into lasciviousness, using the sacrifice of Yahushua HaMashiach as a means to exercise no restraint over fleshly desires. The next work of the flesh is idolatry, which is the worshipping of images or objects, or the worshipping of an idea that the image or object represents. The Hebrew word for worship is shorka, and the Greek word proskuneo, both meaning to prostrate yourself or to bow or crouch down in homage of something. So, in all religions where we see this being done in homage of some deity, that is the most obvious form of idolatry. But overall, whether you're bowing or crouching for an image or object or not, idolatry is like a craving or a longing for something represented by the image or the object or the thing. Here's what the books of Jubilees and the Wisdom of Solomon has to say on idolatry. I implore you, my sons, love the Elohim of heaven, and cleave ye to all his commandments, and walk not after their idols, and after their uncleannesses, and make not for yourself molten or graven Elohim, for they are vanity, and there is no Ruach in them, for they are work of men's hands, and all who trust in them trust in nothing. Wisdom of Solomon reads, but that which is made with hands is cursed, as well it as he that made it. He, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible, it was called Elohim. Therefore even upon the idols of the other nations shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of Elohim they are become an abomination, and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. For the worshipping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. And why might the worshipping of idols be considered the cause and end of all evil? Because, as we'll get to shortly, behind the attachment to idols is a spirit entity, a lesser god, a devil, receiving the adoration that you are given it. And we should know, ultimately, that wicked spirits are responsible for the corruption of mankind, who are known to hold idols or things dearer than the Most High himself. In these last days, in the book of Jeremiah, Yahuwah speaks of Babylon in saying that it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols, which is absolutely the case. Today's modern biblical Babylon, which is vast, adores its idols. And as the outcome, Yahuwah says, declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Moradach is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. And idols don't only include huge statues or rocks, because another word for idolatry in Hebrew is teraphim, which includes household idols and divine symbols. Teraphim's basic meaning is spirit or demon, which accounts for why many household idols or divine symbols have negative spiritual attachments. Your so-called lucky charms or amulets, or astrological symbols or star signs, all represent forms of idolatry and spiritism. Neither shall you bring an abomination into your house, lest you be a cursed thing like it, but you shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Qassam is a Hebrew word for divine, synonymous with divination, which is to seek after spirits in hope of learning of future actions or approval for future actions. Like, for example, what Constantine did with the pagan Christian cross, idolizing it as a divine symbol after he said that it appeared to him given the approval to conquer. And for edification's sake, it was the Ankh that began in ancient Mesopotamia, or Sumer, as a divine symbol to reference Tammuz, the supposed god of fertility. The letter T form was sometimes joined to a circle to identify Tammuz with the sun, and later Egyptians would use it to reference Osiris and other pagan Egyptian gods. So the Ankh is the origin of the symbol of the cross being idolized, which was magnified by Rome, whose infatuations with Egypt should hopefully have been observed up to this point, or elsewhere through open displays of Egyptian Illuminati pyramids in many of their cathedrals, and Rome, who were also known for crucifying people on stakes or upright poles, and not just on crosses. Concerning forms of Roman crucifixions, the Anchor Bible Dictionary says that at times the cross was only one vertical stake, so that would be an upright stake. Other times, a cross piece was attached either at the top to give the shape of a T, which would be a vertical stake, or just below the top, which would form the crossbeam, coincidentally resembling what we know to be the Constantine Christian symbol. The Roman historian Lucius Annaeus, better known as Seneca the Younger, spoke of crucifixions also being carried out on trees. So basically a trunk with the branches cut away, and the victim would have to carry a large beam of wood and be nailed to the upright trunk. And in Yahushua HaMashiach's case, when they had fulfilled all that was written of him, they took him down from the tree, is what's written, and also in other places. And so what has idolatrous Rome been up to in portraying Yahushua's crucifixion? Anyhow, overall there are many divine symbols or teraphim, each portrayed in hope of gaining favour with specific deities, and so representing forms of idolatry. Idolatry can also include of one's self, in the worst extreme case, deifying your own self, or overly trusting in yourself, or otherwise simply over-admiring yourself for whatever reason. The book of Luke reads, "The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself." So, this person was basically praying to himself in Yahuwah's eyes. He was very happy with himself. He idolized himself because he felt that he was different and better than other people, in this instance, because he fasted and gave tithes. Whereas Yahuwah makes clear that whosoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted. And so, idolizing of self, idolizing of objects, images, statues, or even other people are all the works of the flesh. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry, and also from uncleanness and lasciviousness. And until next time, hallelujah and shalom.